Michael Bryan and I are friends and have been for years, but his plan is to blow all city streets and to dramatically raise electricity rates. It will hurt working families and drive jobs away. Seattle can lead the way in the transformation to a better future with jobs for everyone, and on the City Council, I'll lead the way. Thank you.
Okay, position number 4, I start with you, David Bloom. You've called for an additional 5,000 units of affordable housing above and beyond what the levy would build if it's passed, and above and beyond what the city normally does in its continuing affordable housing program. Why is that a good idea, and how would you pay for it?
It's a good idea because we lose more low-income housing every year than we build in this city. We have a housing levy, which is an excellent program, and over the 20-some years of its existence, we've built around 10,000 units of low-income housing, but because of demolitions, rent increases, and so on, we continue to lose more than we build. And in losing that kind of housing, we lose working families. We lose the ability to have a place where low-income people can find a home. We're spending up to $1 billion in public subsidy for development in South Lake Union. $300 million of that for the two-way Mercer alone. And what we need to do is to start to prioritize needs for people.
Just a quick follow-up. You talk about Mercer and you allude to the viaduct as though that money's kind of transferable, but that's pretty hard to get a hold of, any of that money. It's transportation dedicated, isn't it?
You're right, CR. But my point in arguing for this is, yeah, there are designated pools of money, capital funds that go in particular directions and so on, but what I'm saying is we need to start having a conversation about shifting our priorities in terms of how we spend our public dollars in this society and in this city.
Sally Bagshaw, let me ask you to respond to the 5,000 additional units. Is that a responsible number? And if it's not, what is the responsible number?
I would like to, if I may, not focus on a specific number. I agree that housing needs to be added, but it needs to be added on an entire continuum, such as temporary housing. We all have seen what happened with Nicholsville in the last couple of weeks. Tent cities are something that we need, unfortunately, because people do not have enough shelter beds. I would like to focus on additional shelter beds, perhaps as many as 1,000 additional beds with services to get people in and off the streets. I'd also like to see more low-income housing. And where do we put it? We put it in places like Mercer around South Lake Union.
Let me just ask you, what is wrong with 5,000 units then?
Only that we don't have available money right now, right this moment, to put in 5,000 housing units from the city.
Jesse Israel, you want this $200 million makeover. You want the two-way Mercer. It's tough in the time of tightened budgets. Why aren't you for this reduced plan?
I do want the two-way Mercer. Because I think the Mercer project isn't just about fixing one street. It's about getting a street grid back together. We have bisected the Mercer, the South Lake Union neighborhood with 2 streets. And it makes it the least walkable, least drivable, least bikeable neighborhood we have in Seattle. If we had done this 9 years ago, we would not be here having this conversation today. But the reason I am running is that you've been talking for 9 years. This is about building a neighborhood. It's about making a place where if you live in South Lake Union, you can walk to the new South Lake Union Park, you can walk to the Opera at Seattle Center, you can head to Belltown and have a bite to eat. It's about bringing jobs into our city. Since 9 years ago when we first discussed this, we've had more than 10,000 jobs. We should be thanking our lucky stars that companies like the Gates Foundation and focusing on global health, Amazon, Children's Hospital, the University of Washington, Group Health, and many others are deciding to anchor in our city.
Mike O'Brien, a viaduct question for you. How could we have avoided it? You want what's called the Surface Transit I-5 alternative. It is $3.3 billion. The tunnel plan and all its accompanying projects is a $4.2 billion project. So the differential is $900 million. For $900 extra million, you'd actually get this tunnel in an unequivocal corridor north-south. Why is the tunnel not a good deal if it's only $900 million extra?
First, I want to respond to something that my opponent, some comments he made in his opening statements. He made some accusations that were false, and Marvin knows that. The only person in our race who's supporting increasing utility rates for the defined plan, which is tolling, is Robert, and it's the tunnel. Because that tunnel has $400 million in tolling, $4 to $6 each way to pay for it, and $250 million of utility rate increases to pay for removal of the utilities. So I don't support that. Now, why do I think that's a better deal?
Correct.
$900 million is a lot of money. I talked earlier about how we're closing senior centers, we're laying off teachers, we're closing libraries, and these are for thousands of dollars. If we had $900 million, if we had the capacity to go out and raise $900 million in the city right now, is that what we would want to invest in? If we're heading into the future, where gas prices are going up, carbon emissions need to come down, do we want to invest that money in a 1.7-mile dedicated highway that has no on or off ramps downtown and that will never serve any transit needs? I think that money is not well spent, and the $3.3 billion plan that I support actually meets all of our mobility needs. In fact, it serves freight better in the Washington Department of Transportation's modeling than the tunnel plan does.
And briefly, how do you convince people who are scared that surface will cause gridlock in Seattle?
You know, we have examples around the world and around the country where it works.
Do you support keeping the ride-free zone, even if it means increasing the amount of money paid by the city to maintain it? Do you think the circumstances that exist today could lead to, in the next few years, the city overtaking Seattle Public Schools? Do you support Mayor Nichols' $200 million Mercer makeover plan? Do you support repealing the city head tax on employees? Repealing. Do you support building a First Avenue streetcar route? Everybody got that? Do you support Councilmember Burgess's plan